Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Voice of the Valleys yet again with your host and friendly neighborhood far-right thug, Mr. George Cresswell. Hope we're all doing well. Coming to you again from the dining room table. Quite like the setup. Not gonna lie, I don't think my girlfriend does, but heyo, we are here. We are here today to go over some things again. Some things which I wanted to go over last time, but the episode ended up running long, so we're not going to go over them just. We're going to catch up on things that we were going to go over last time. Pardon me. And then we got some new things to go over. But the biggest thing which I want to go over at the moment, because it harkens back to an interview I'd done before, conversation I had with somebody by the name of Mr. James Harvey, right? James is the founder of Students Against Tyranny. Recently had a big, massive win up in the University of East Anglia, whereby I think the work up there in highlighting the madness due to gender ideology and trans ideology and allowing men to use female spaces, stuff like that. Recently, especially in light of the Supreme Court ruling in the UK, they've recently basically forced the University of East Anglia's hand to reverse that policy, as far as I know. See if I can reach out to James, see if we can get him to come back on the show to talk about that. I was hoping to be able to go up to there and cover the work that he was doing, but sadly it fell at a really, really bad time for me, and I was not able to make it happen due to other work commitments and such. Anyway, see if we can get James back on the show to talk about that. James seems to be doing a lot of really, really good work at the moment. So, first thing I wanted to go over, first main thing to go over today that really left a bad taste in my mouth was this article which I read, or I read the headline and thought, I'm just going to save that and then come back and talk about it on the show. So, this is a article from The Telegraph, and the Telegraph title, or headline, is School Children Taught Black People Built Stonehenge. Here's the article for you now. It's coming on screen, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is the article in question. Drive to, quote, decolonize history curriculums has gone too far, warns report. So according to the Telegraph here, this was written on 18th of May 2025, so it's today, and was published at 7:28 a.m. School children are being taught that black people built Stonehenge as part of a decolonized history curriculum, a report has found. The reason it harkens back to that interview I had with James, he talked about decolonization of the curriculum and all these Marxist, anti-racist agendas, right, that all come under this banner of inclusivity and diversity and equity, or equality, as the British government tries to, espionage, if you will, the meaning of it. They try to use the term equality when in reality they mean equity. Go look up the difference between the two terms in this context if you want to understand the difference between, say, equality of outcome and equality of opportunity, equity being equality of outcome. The claim is made in the book Brilliant Black British History, which is still used in schools across the country, according to research by Policy Exchange, the think tank, written by Atinuke, or Atinuk, however you say it, the Nigerian-born British author, says that Britain was a black country for more than 7,000 years before white people came. Biggest lie that we've ever been told in recent history is this. But anyway, the report has described the book as one example of how the push to decolonize or diversify history curriculums in schools has gone too far. The think tank found that 83% of secondary schools had changed their history curriculum to, quote, decolonize it. Which usually involves reducing or removing topics deemed too white, male, or European. And this is where you're seeing the intersectionality idea come into play, because, for example, it's not just about decolonizing as in reference to direct colonialism. No, you're seeing the influence of things like feminism with the male aspect. You're seeing the influence of anti-racism with the white element, and then obviously the European colonial element. So this is a great example of how this intersectionality framework, which has taken over the Western world like a cancer at the moment, is again everywhere you look, everywhere that's public funded at the moment, whether it's schools, whether it's hospitals, whether it doesn't matter what it is. If it's public funded and funded by the government, i.e. funded by taxpayers, with the government acting as its own what's the word I'm looking for, the as if it was their own money, using taxpayers' money as if it was their own money for their own agendas, you can bet that it is being decolonized and made anti-racist and anti-white male European, for sure. The report said, in some cases, this had a positive effect, exposing students to varied and knowledge-rich studies that better cover key areas of British history, such as the women's suffrage movement. Notice they never cover the, as I read in Rachel Wilson's book, Occult Feminism, the occult origins not only of feminism, but we never cover the anti-suffragettes. Why we ever cover the anti-suffragettes, which, if Rachel's work is to be believed, was a much bigger movement than the suffragette movement, but it didn't have the backing of the powerful individuals at the top of society, Rockefellers and all the rest of it, that wanted the women's suffrage movement so that they could turn women into taxable units and destroy the family. So we never hear about the anti-women's suffrage movement. We never hear about the women that were pro-family and pro-faith and stuff like that, and pro-life, as well as a wider range of world history. Now, only the world history they want you to know. That's a complete lie. Only the world history that they want you to know. However, in too many cases, the process has gone too far, leading to the teaching of radical and contested interpretations of the past as fact, or with anecdotes of interesting lives replacing a deeper understanding of the core drivers of history. So this is what your kids are being taught, public school. So you need to be prepared for this. You need to be prepared for this if you're a parent, to be able to say, no, little Jimmy, or no, little Sarah, I don't know. No, it wasn't actually black people that built this country. It was ancient Britons that were very likely, most likely rather, coming from, not only were they indigenous to the British Isles, and they would likely had light skin, as confirmed by DNA analysis of remains like the Cheddar Man from the region, which is dated to around 7,000 BC. And this is just from a basic thing on X, by the way. So if you go to X and you go to Grok, you can ask him this question. I'm not using Grok as like this be-all, end-all source in this information, but usually AI at the moment will spit out kind of woke answers to most questions. A lot of people criticizing Grok or the AI, XAI Grok for its answers on things like Islam, for example, not being accurate on Islam, representing Islam in its ideology as far more peaceful than it actually is. Okay, but legit, I asked Grok, just, did black people build Stonehenge? Yes or no? And it just came back with a flat answer, no. And then when I asked it to elaborate, it said this: Stonehenge, located in Wiltshire, England, was constructed between approximately 3000 and 2000 BC by Neolithic and Bronze Age peoples. Archaeological evidence, including skeletal remains and genetic studies, indicates the builders were likely indigenous to the British Isles, with ancestry tied to early European farmers and hunter-gatherers. These populations had light skin, as confirmed by DNA analysis of remains like the Cheddar Man from the region, which date to around 7,000 BC. No evidence suggests sub-Saharan African or black populations were present in Britain during this period or involved in Stonehenge's construction. Claims otherwise lack credible archaeological or historical support and often stem from the misinformation or speculative narratives not grounded in evidence. And there's more to this, ladies and gentlemen, which I'm going to show to you now. Just bear with me 2 seconds. So I just found it, guys. I've got 2 things for you now. One to read to you from Mr. Tom Rousel. So he's a historian, YouTuber, and heathen community leader, okay, with nearly 52,000 followers on X. But he specifically addressed somebody's claim. We've got a video to look at from him as well. It's a slightly shorter video than the other one I have, which is 15 minutes long, but you can go find them on Tom Rousel's page. It's at Tom_Rousel, TOM_ROWSELL on X. But to specifically address his claim, the Western hunter-gatherers are the original claim he made is that Western hunter-gatherers are our European ancestors, not Africans. Okay? And Tom chimed in with this. He said, Western hunter-gatherers are an essential component of white ancestry. You cannot be white unless you descend from Western hunter-gatherers. White is an ethnic category, and Western hunter-gatherers are therefore proto-whites who confer their status of indigeneity to their white descendants. The Anglo-Saxons all descended from white hunter-gatherers, and so did the ancient Britons. Okay, so that's, again, this whole claim that, prehistoric or Neolithic Britain was black is just complete lie. It is just a complete lie, no matter how uncomfortable that reality may make you. But we're going to check out this video now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to make sure that it's working a moment. Oh, it's very quiet. Why is that? Ah, there we go. Okay, I had the volume down. Okay, so I'm going to play this video for you now, ladies and gentlemen. It's about 5 minutes long, so I can't imagine we'll go through it all, but this is important to go through because this is our very ancestral heritage that's at stake. If we lose that, if the facts get misrepresented on that, we lose claim to anything. Lose claim to any ethnic homeland. We lose claim to you know, our place of living, you know, and that with that goes rights to have a family and right to prosper and all this stuff. We'll die out if we lose this, okay? So here we go.
I'll start with Cheddar Man, 10,000-year-old skeleton from Britain, which belongs to a race of people that geneticists refer to as Western hunter-gatherers. And these skeletons have been found all over Europe, Western Europe, from Spain up into Britain and Sweden, and they are generally a sort of a genetic group that formed somewhere around the Mesolithic, and then were replaced with the incoming of farming in the Neolithic. Basically, modern Europeans have inherited a lot of their blood, and they're a lot like modern Europeans, except one specific aspect. They didn't have brown eyes. All of them have blue eyes. The brown eyes were brought in later by the Neolithic farmers. And another thing brought in by the Neolithic farmers were genes associated with the complexions we now associate with Europeans. These are absent in Western hunter-gatherers, which has led some scientists to assume that perhaps these people had darker complexions. The media reported him as a sub-Saharan African, which is absolutely not true, when he was not a black man. I thought this media campaign had been engineered and scientists had encouraged it, knowing that it was a false narrative, because they wanted to encourage the disassociation of modern British people with the prehistoric inhabitants of the island, and thereby disrupt senses of belonging. One of the scientists who advised the people...
Absolutely, because they had political motivations behind this. Obviously, you can only have to type in UN replacement migration to understand that this is, when people talk about the great replacement and all of these things, they're not talking about crackpot conspiracy theories or anything like that. They're literally talking about systems that have been put in place to replace ethnic populations, such as the British population in their homeland and stuff like that. This is not in the realm of conspiracy theory. This is stuff the UN says themselves in their own documents.
People who made the facial reconstruction was Tom Booth from the Natural History Museum. And in the year before the Cheddar Man fiasco began, he released an article in conjunction with people from...
So I'll just read this to you on screen. If you're listening to this episode, apologies, Tom might be quite difficult to hear, but I'm looking at the audio levels on my recording software, and it seems to be clipping a little bit. So apologies if it hasn't been great. I'm trying to find that balance. But this is a paper that's been published by Lorna Jane Richardson and Tom Booth. Tom Booth was the gentleman he was just talking about that was on screen. It was published in Papers from the Institute of Archaeology for University College of London. And does it say the date this was published? This was published in 2017. It's been viewed 729 times. It's been cited once. I'm not sure when Tom created this, made this video. But it says here, the title of the article is Response to Brexit, Archaeology and Heritage, Reflections and Agendas. Okay. Abstract. This research was presented at the UCL Brexit Archaeology and Heritage Workshop, and here it is summarized as a response to the lead form article, Brexit Archaeology and Heritage Reflection. So there's not really that much on there. But the fact that Brexit is in a paper that is supposedly about British ancestry and heritage is truly puzzling, is it not?
From UCL, and it reveals his biases and that he has a vested interest in preventing the reporting of ancient DNA from reinforcing senses of identity, which he believes feeds into white nationalist narratives, or even encouraging the plague of our times, Brexit.
So there we go. Classic example of things that people were warning about and that I've been far too liberal on for not realizing is the political motivations behind how some people, some quote-unquote researchers, publish science and, conflicts of interest and stuff like that. Now, I'm not a kind of person that believes that because one area or just multiple areas of science have been politically corrupted in this manner, that means everything needs to be thrown out. I don't believe that, okay? But again, it's important to highlight people's political motivations and biases that they will try to obfuscate if they're trying to do this for a political gain, if they're trying to push this agenda for a political gain being, in this instance, doing something to discredit what he believes, again, is the plague of our time, as Tom called it, Brexit, and discredit that so we'll be taken back into the EU single market and have the liberal social democratic socialism jackboot overhead of the EU and Ursula von der Leyen. And it says here, quote, archaeologists need to understand that the complex information contained within the news, popular and academic articles in the public domain is being misinterpreted, misused, and used to uphold ultra-racist political beliefs within complex social contexts online. No, it's being used to uphold the truth. And that's what people don't like. People don't like, again, they're trying to remove anybody who is a white ethnic European or just a white person in general, such as the Afrikaners in South Africa. They're trying to do it in America. That none of these people are native to anywhere. None of these people are indigenous to anywhere. They're trying to remove them from the lands that they've called home for potentially tens of thousands of years for political reasons. So the people they're bringing in, due to a lot of the places that they're coming from being absolute, dictatorship shitholes, that they'll vote for the people that got them out of that, and then we'll be usurped in our own homeland to have this one world government, because any kind of notion of sovereign democracy will have been voted out.
Archaeologists need to understand that the complex information contained within news, popular and academic articles in the public domain is being misinterpreted, misused, and used to uphold ultra-racist political beliefs within complex social contexts online. The complicated association between present ethnic identity and ancient DNA is misunderstood, oversimplified, and frequently used to fit into nationalist narratives and support ideas of white supremacy.
As you know, white supremacy, apologies if that is clipping over the limit, guys. Obviously, he's done this for comedic effect. But it says here, the voice is very, high-pitched and fast. The complicated association between present ethnic identity and ancient DNA is misunderstood, oversimplified, and frequently used to fit into nationalist narratives and support ideas of white supremacy. Everything that he doesn't like is white supremacy, evidently, this guy. Not Tom, as in the guy he's talking about. So
originally Europe was populated quite homogeneously with a single basic population of hunter-gatherers that geneticists call Western hunter-gatherers. And whether you take a sample of one of these from Spain or Britain or anywhere else in Western Europe, it's pretty much the same. There's not a great deal of genetic drift. There's some, but they all form one genetic cluster. There's no living population on Earth today that is exactly in that cluster. They're closer to Northern Europeans than to Southern Europeans, because Northern Europeans today have more genetic similarity, more descent from the original indigenous hunter-gatherers of Europe than Southern Europeans do. No other race in the world has any genetic affinity with them except Europeans. None at all.
So we can confidently say Western hunter-gatherers are European people. They're just an archaic type. They have European-shaped nose, European brow ridges, European straight hair. Everything European, but perhaps a darker complexion.
So there we go. Western hunter-gatherers, indigenous to Europe, and obviously then would have likely been indigenous to these isles. And that is a key tenet, as Tom laid out in that post, which I read to you. Again, I'll read it to you one more time. Western hunter-gatherers are an essential component of white ancestry. You cannot be white unless you descend from Western hunter-gatherers. White is an ethnic category, and Western hunter-gatherers are therefore proto-whites who confer their status of indigeneity to their white descendants. The Anglo-Saxons all descended from white hunter-gatherers, Western hunter-gatherers, and so did the ancient Britons. Now, this is something that people don't want you to know, especially with the socialist, disgusting Labour government that we have in in Wales right now. And also Plaid are going to be the same, because Plaid are, again, globalists in nationalists' clothing. Now, this is another article, I believe it's from the Telegraph, but this is from November 16th, 2024. And the headline of the article should tell you everything that you need to know. Welsh Government vows to change beliefs and behaviour of the white majority. It's them saying the government is vowing to reduce us to nothing. Reduce us to nothing and believe that us reducing ourselves to nothing and doing things that are going to be reducing us to nothing is a good thing. Now tell me that this is a government that has the best interests of Wales at heart. Somehow Plaid are going to be even worse than this, but tell me how this is a government that has the best interests of Wales at heart. Key point here, guys, it doesn't. The Welsh Government has pledged to, quote, change the beliefs and behaviour of the white majority in Wales. Labour's devolved administration vows to eradicate racism by 2030, unless it's towards white people, which is what's going on right now. Out of an anti-racist action plan which insists that all aspects of public life are made inclusive. Yes, inclusive with everything. Inclusive to people that believe you should have your head cut off because you're an infidel. Inclusive to people who should believe that, you know, you should be able to do really not good things with children. It's the whole Pride movement. So, yeah, inclusivity, truly amazing stuff going on here. Obviously, this is just the anti-racist stuff, but again, inclusivity is a very broad catch-all term whereby no discrimination is allowed unless, again, it's against the, white, often male majority, because, again, you've got to have that intersectional feminism in there. To meet the demands of the plan, public bodies have launched policies which include potentially destroying statues of old white men, quote unquote, that have been deemed offensive. And official reports have advised creating dog-free areas to boost inclusion. People who require these dog-free areas to be instituted as to boost inclusion should not be included in Welsh society. It is that simple. The same ones, again, that you should be able to do these, horrific things with young boys and young girls, and especially if they happen to be sons and daughters of the infidels and stuff like that. Why are we catering? Why are we absolutely cucking ourselves and catering to these people? Because there's wider political agendas at play that the people at the top, the socialist leaders at the top, are going to benefit from, including making you a serf class. Statues of old white men may need to be destroyed, Welsh Government advises. So, for example, I have here Admiral Nelson, Sir Thomas Picton, the Duke of Wellington, and Henry Morton Stanley all have statues in Wales. So they need to be torn down. They need to be torn down, despite the fact they're key points of our heritage and many of these people are national heroes. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? All to cater, all to pander to people that hate us anyway. Why should we? The Labour government has now revealed that one outcome of the plan will be a change in the beliefs and behaviour of the white majority, quote unquote. This is stated in an updated plan released with a foreword by Ewlened Morgan, the First Minister of Wales, who has reiterated her, quote, commitment to building an inclusive and equitable society for all our black, Asian and minority ethnic people and communities. Notice a distinct lack there of native Welsh people, native Welsh men and women, who, the land of Wales should be for. An explanation of the, quote, logic of the refreshed action plan states that the overall vision of an anti-racist Wales will be achieved through shifts in knowledge, beliefs and experiences, behaviour, as well as systemic cultural changes. Yeah, ruining our culture, getting rid of it, eradicating it. By saying they're planning to, quote unquote, eradicate racism, that's not what they're planning to do. That's not what they're planning to do. They're eradicating Welsh culture and Welsh heritage, and in many instances, Welsh people, all for their own gain. Truly, truly disgusting. And that's why we really do need big change at the next election. Or again, it might be too late. It might already be too late. Right, I've had enough of all these intersectional agendas, the intersectional feminism, the trans agenda, all of it. I've had a friggin' enough of it at this point. But anyway, you need to be aware that this is what's going on. You need to be aware that you are the target in particular, especially if your children, as we said, are in public school right now, being taught that ancient Britain was black and all of this stuff. You need to be able to correct the record on this stuff. You really need to be able to correct the record on this stuff, which is why you need to be paying attention. You need to be paying attention to what they're taught at school, and you need to be doing the research, or you need to be doing the reading and understanding your own heritage and understanding that it's worthy of protection and it's good that it's protected, and you should be able to prosper in this land that you call home, the land that you have roots in. Now, the same as some person that's come over with a piece of paper and a passport and is told that they have the same roots in this land that you do that might go back several thousands of years. We're not the same. We're not the same, and we shouldn't pretend that we are. So anyway, getting on to this now. This was something I wanted to go over yesterday, but I accidentally fucked up, and I realized that I forgot to get my I forgot to replay the track again. So I was listening to the track and reacting to it, but I just had my webcam on and it was no good. This is an interview excerpt that has recently been released that basically shows just how far into cognitive decline President Biden was at the end of his administration. Now, obviously, we know that we were told that Biden was sharp as a tack. We were told this and we were told that. We were told the cognitive decline. It was all cheap fakes is what they called them. That, any sign of cognitive decline, whether it because he had to be not carried, but he had to be led off stage by, I believe Barack Obama was one of them, because he just got stuck on stage like a Roomba trying to go around the room, but it gets stuck on the carpet. He's not sure where he's going. But this was an interview that Biden done with Robert Hurr. Now, Robert Hurr, for your information, ladies and gentlemen, in case you're not sure who it is, he's a lawyer and former United States Attorney for the District of Maryland. And he also previously served as Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General with the U.S. Department of Justice. Okay, but he conducted an interview with Biden. I'm not sure when this interview was. It was when he was still in office. So it was before November. It was before the election in November last year. I believe it might have been around debate season, but I can't remember. And it just shows how much the Democrats and the media tried to cover up his decline, because he couldn't remember very key pivotal dates of things that had happened in his life that everybody would remember, things that would be burned into their memory, you would think, from not even, about 10 years ago, from going up to about 10 years ago. So I'll let this audio play now. It's not actual video. The video is just audio with a still image, but I'll play it for you now so you can listen to this. He really struggles. I have listened to most of this. He really struggles trying to recall key dates of like when his son died. He's really struggling to string together a sentence. He stutters a lot. And this is truly awful. Truly awful what they did to him in, pushing him out in front of the media, saying that he's fine and just trying to salvage any kind of political credibility that they could at the expense of this man's mental decrements and at the expense, obviously, then of his quality of life. Biden's not a great person, don't get me wrong, but again, it's nobody likes seeing vulnerable elders being treated in this way that the Democrats treated them, purely to try and salvage some political credibility. But here you go, ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Hurr and Joseph Biden, the interview that was told it couldn't be released, even though transcripts were released, because of how damaging it was, and they tried to cover it up.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer moonshot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying.
So you think, I'm not sure if he's talking about Bo here, the point that really needs to be hammered home at this point in particular is when he's talking about this region of time, 2017, 2018. Bo's already dead at this point. Okay, so Bo Biden in 2015, May 20th, and I know this because when I first started talking about this, I researched when when Bo passed away. It was in May 20th, he was taken into hospital, I believe, with a brain cancer, a recurrence of a brain cancer, I believe it was. It was 10 days later that he died. So May 30th of 2015 was when Bo Biden passed away. Obviously, Biden's already getting confused with the dates here because he thinks this is happening in 2017, 2018. So obviously already there, he's 3 years off for what you think would be a, date that is ingrained in the memory. Now, as far as I remember, he does actually remember the date later on in this interview. But again, just going here, not remembering that if his son Bo was deployed or dying when this is 3 years, 2 to 3 years after he's already dead, is really, really worrying for somebody that had the nuclear codes to the codes to the world's largest nuclear arsenal on the truly what many people thought, myself included, was going to be the precipice of an all-out global conflict again.
And
Just doesn't show how much danger the left placed us in at that time, and were willing to place us in.
And by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. So, I'm not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that.
Again, if he's thinking here about the president at that time, if we're still talking about that 2017, 2018, I believe he's talking about Kamala, but if we're talking about the president at the time of 2017, 2018, that would be Donald Trump. So it'd be pretty weird that you'd be expecting your opponent to be endorsing you to run for the presidency. It's a bit weird thing to think, but I do believe they're talking about Kamala here.
She had a better shot.
Yeah, she had a better shot.
Presidency than I did. And so I
actually don't necessarily think so. I do think more people probably would have voted for Biden, even though he was one vegetable short of a cabbage patch, so to speak. If that's an analogy, I don't know if that's even an analogy, but yeah, just the fact that they put him out to do debates with Donald Trump and sacrificed whatever little bit of credibility he had left to try and salvage the political power that they had, because that's all they cared about was obviously political power. It is truly, it is kind of heartbreaking, man. You can really dislike Biden and really hate the political corruption, and even him personally for things that he's alleged to have done. You know, if you've heard people talk about the excerpts of like Ashley Biden's diary and stuff like that. But again, this is just an elder that was abused for political power, and that's never very nice.
I hadn't at this point.
And clearly a very mentally confused elder.
That I might run for office again.
Compromised.
If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th.
There you go. So that's pretty good. He can still remember the date. So when he presses his mind on it, he can still remember the date. That's good. Again, one of these dates where it's your son that's dying, you think because of the pain and the anguish that would cause, it would be burned into your memory, right?
2015 he died?
Actually, 2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
It was May 30th, 2015.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. 2016. All right.
He gets inaugurated in 2017. So as you know, in America, vote will take place in November. I believe it was on the 4th or the 5th. And then on the 20th of January, the new president will be inaugurated. So you get inaugurated on 20th of January of the following year. So he was elected in November 2016. He would have been inaugurated in November 2017, just like he was elected in November 2024 and was inaugurated in January 2025.
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in then.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And
obviously, for the context there, Biden was not president then. Obviously, it was Obama. I do believe that Biden was the vice president at the time, wasn't he? I'll just double check that. Actually, give me 2 seconds, guys. I'll just double check that. Yes, it does appear that I was correct when I said that. So, the second inauguration of Barack Obama's of President of the United States was the 57th inauguration, marking the commencement of his second and final term, with Joe Biden as his vice president. So that's where he's saying when he left office, obviously Joe Biden was not the president at that time, but he was the vice president to Barack Obama. Let's get back into the video.
In 2017, Lowe had passed, and this is personal. The genesis.
We're only 3 minutes into a 4-minute and 25-second clip, and I don't really think we need to go any further with this, but you can see why the Democrats did not want this audio to come out. The transcripts, I do believe, were released, but you can tell, you can try and cover up a couple of things with the transcripts. Things never seem as big as they are if you see them on a piece of paper like this in this context. You can see why they done everything to bury this interview and didn't want it coming out. It's very clear.
The book and the title, Promise Me Dad.
It's very clear that this man is in no condition to be the leader of the free world or anything close.
I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish.
For those who don't know, for those of you who might not be aware of the Biden family, he's referring to Bo as his one son, and then Hunt, short for Hunter, that's his other son, one who is, let's just say, is having a bit of a very extended wayward youth, should we say.
Each other's sentences.
Done a lot of good work on behalf of the
Bo,
Biden crime
I used
family.
to go home.
Mr. Hunter did.
On the train, and the period that I was still in the Senate.
You don't even need the video. You can hear how much he's struggling to try and say this.
There was pressure, not pressure. Bo knew how much I adored him.
And obviously not just because of what happens as you age, but because obviously the mental decrements that he's incurred as well.
Everybody knew how close we were.
It's just sad, man.
Not anybody knew or wondered whether or not. Anyway. And so.
I'm wondering
That'll
if
do.
it's a break.
There we go. So they're taking a break.
Let me just keep going.
So there we go. So that's the end of that video. And that's just sad, man. That's just sad, no matter how much you don't like Biden personally. I'm not a Biden fan by any means. I don't like the guy at all. But again, I say I don't like the guy. I don't know him. Obviously, he seems to me as though just to be a extremely corrupt politician. Obviously, I don't like corrupt politicians as nobody else does. But, you know, when somebody's being used in that way, when they're being used for things by people behind the scenes who are only concerned with their own bottom line, usually money and power, it's just awful. Just awful to see anybody who's somebody's father and granddad going through that condition, going through that level of mental decrement, not knowing where they are, a very vulnerable person and being used in that way. It's not nice. It's not nice at all. It's not nice at all. But you can see why they tried to keep it buried. That's why, again, nothing was cheap fake about people saying that Biden was in severe cognitive decline. Nothing at all about it. They were completely right. As per usual, it was the Democrats, the left, the media that tried to cover it up because they knew how bad it looked. For those who those who claim to be all about things like, again, anti-racism, not discriminating. I suppose they're practicing what they preach, actually. So they're showing that at least they're not, like, ableist. They, in fact, forcing somebody who's going through severe disability in many ways, severe mental disability, to carry out the bidding that they want, right? But anyway, that'll do those stories for today. On to something different now. So this was something that mind-blowing that happened literally a few hours ago, as far as I remember that it was being reported on. I've seen this pop up in my X feed the last couple of hours. There has been a ship that's in the style of like an old kind of frigate or brig ship with a Mexican flag on it that's gone into the Brooklyn Bridge. So for some reason, a ship that's adorned with like what looks to be like fairy lights and stuff like that has gone careening into the Brooklyn Bridge whilst cars are on it. Mind, obviously, everything is it's just a random day in New York, and next thing you know, this ship, which looks like a ghost ship at Christmas, has all of a sudden come along and smashed its mast, all of them on the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, sadly, I'm going to play you the video for this, guys. Do please again be respectful whilst you're watching this. 2 people, as far as I know, have lost their lives in this incident. So here you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the footage of that that's happened in New York recently. So the ship's coming in. You can see it's just coming in. Massive Mexican flag.
She's about to crash.
They're saying she's about to crash.
Oh, shit.
Turn it up just a little bit. There you go. And you can see the mast falling. It's made collision, and you can see the boat's still coming. Oh, she's still coming. So obviously people are running because they don't want to get hit by anything. They don't want to, get hit by falling debris or whatever. But look at it. Now, it's difficult to appreciate from this angle. Obviously, this is from somebody on the ground looking up at this, and this is terrifying. Let's go back to this bit, just before he starts running away. This is terrifying, because you're thinking, God, is he going to hit the bloody wall or something like that? I think it did in the end. I think it did actually graze the wall. This is scary, man. So then it eventually comes to rest. Look at this. There's an American flag on it as well. It looks like a real ghost ship now. But I have another angle for you as well, ladies and gentlemen. I have another angle for you. So this makes it much easier to see. Oh, God, hang on, this video won't pause. Okay, so here's an angle, ladies and gentlemen, that makes it a little bit easier to see because it captures the incident in its entirety. So there you go. You see the mast fall, the lights go out. There you go. Mast is tilting, down it comes. So it doesn't actually collapse all the way, it collapses down about halfway.
Imagine you rent the boat for the night and then it just fucking collapses.
Obviously, horrendous mistakes been made. So yeah, obviously, pray for the people that have sadly lost their lives. Pray for the people that are injured and are now recovering from this incident. There are several people that are injured as well. Here's again another slightly different angle, which you can see again a little bit more of the ship coming in. Just imagine being in this hotel and just looking at the window and seeing this. So the ship's coming in. Looks really nice, to be fair, the way they've adorned it with lights, and I love the old aesthetic of ships and stuff like that used to sail the seas. But again, how did they make this mistake? But you can see here on the bridge, it's completely covered in cars. Obviously, there's people seeing this on the bridge, seeing this ship coming at them. Imagine how terrified they are, and then the masts go. And that day, as far as I know, people were up on these masts, maybe doing maintenance or making sure that everything was stable. And sadly, it appears that 2 people have fallen from the masts and lost their lives.
Yeah.
So again, truly awful. Reminds me of, again, a much smaller version of the incident that happened a little while ago, where a big ship went into a bridge in I can't remember exactly where it was. Was it in Maryland? I think it was in Maryland, and the entire bridge came down. People were accusing it of being a cyber attack on the ship that caused the lights to go out and caused the ship to plow into the bridge. And I think several people lost their lives there as well. But yeah, truly heartbreaking stuff. As I said, pray for everybody affected. But yeah, it just seems to be like epitomizing the collapse that's going on across the Western world at the moment, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in America. It just seems that everything is going wrong. Every single thing is going wrong. It's more and more things that are going wrong every single day. And things have been going wrong in Britain for a long, long time now. Things have been going wrong in Britain for a long, long time. I'm not sure if this video is a parody video or not, but the sad thing is that this is the reality of the UK at the moment. So we now have companies in the UK that are now marketing, allegedly. I'm not sure if this is a spoof video, okay? So take this with a grain of salt, but anything is possible in modern day anti-racist, liberal, utopia, democratic socialist dystopia, multicultural Britain nowadays, right? companies are selling stab vests to kids on social media. So this is the video in question that I am referring to, which I'll play for you now. So the caption, by the way, on the video, guys, for those of you who are listening, not watching, is "Don't get caught lacking this summer." That's not the Queen's English. It's not the Queen's English. But, yeah, that's the UK English that we have nowadays. Don't get caught lacking. Says, get yourself a stab-proof vest. £50 per vest, postals straight to your door. Hashtag protect your chest, hashtag UK vest plug. So again, this apparently is the brand here, UK vest plug. Don't lack this summer. Protect your chest 0. So this is apparently what's going on now. And yet people want to just pretend that everything is fine in Britain. If this is genuinely what's going on, this is, again, it's... I want to believe it's just like parody, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of kids, especially in these areas where this would have been filmed, you know, big cities especially, reality is, if you're one of those people, you probably do need one of these if you're a kid going to school nowadays, or if you're just a kid out in the community. You probably do need one because of the culture that we've allowed to be created. It's truly, truly awful. And what's the solution that most people, or seemingly that schools and everything like that have, is to just talk about now things about banning smartphones in schools. Again, it just seems like they want to obfuscate the problem at all times. I'm not saying smartphones for kids are great, but with the country that we live in, you need it. Imagine if people did not have smartphones when the Lucas Ziga incident happened, where he was holding the Welsh boy in and allowing 10 other of these feral kids to beat the shit out of him. You know? None of those people belong in my country. They should be gone. They should be gone. They should be on the next plane home and never be allowed back. But this is, you know, this is an indictment on the culture. This is a massive indictment on the culture. But people will just be like, oh, yeah, well, it's just, you know, it's just overblown and all stuff like that, as we always tend to do, unless it's a problem that we can directly see in front of our faces. For some reason, we're not capable now of discerning that one thing might be indicative of a wider societal problem, despite the fact that we have so many of these little cues that are telling us we're in massive societal decline at the moment. I do not get it. All the while, what are our politicians, not necessarily ours in this instance, but what are the politicians really concerned with? Obviously electoral fraud and just keeping their power. They're just concerned with electoral fraud and keeping their power. That's all they'll ever be concerned with. So you have in Romanian elections, for example, apparently fraud has been caught on tape. So this was shared by Jim Ferguson of Freedom Train International. I bookmarked this video because I wanted to go back to it. Fraud in Romanian elections caught on tape in the Republic of Moldova. So this is from a page known as Daily Romania. A suspected City Hall employee was caught transporting Moldovans with Romanian citizenship to voting sections to vote in Romanian elections. When questioned, the man denied transporting the women, but then entered the polling station where they were and instructed them not to return to the car he used to bring them. None of the women knew each other, and they all left quickly in separate directions, refusing to talk. When asked about the man who brought them, one woman admitted they being in the car, but claimed he did not speak with them. The car that transported the women was later filmed leaving without them. The man is likely an employee of City Hall that pays citizens to vote for Nicus, however you say this, Nicus Sodan, in the elections. So it's just a documented case of electoral fraud going on in Romania. And I do believe, is this video in Romanian? Yes, videos in Romanian, ladies and gentlemen, but it's got English subtitles, so I'll read those out for you as we go along with this video. We will check this out now. Oh, for some reason oh no, I'm pressing the wrong button. There we go.
Filmat, dar vreau să întreb, sunteți mașina la primărie, sunteți șoferi la primărie?
I'm going to pause that a minute just while I change the volume a little bit. So the guy's asking, are you a driver of the City Hall?
Da, de unde sunteți?
Where are you from then?
Ați adus 3 oameni la
You brought 3 people to the voting section.
Am s-o dat jos 3 doamne.
Just now they left in the car 3 women.
Să așteptăm să sui înapoi.
We will wait for them to come back.
De la și primărie sunteți. Dar dumneavoastră de ce nu
Which
votați
city
dacă
hall
ați
do you
adus
work?
3
Why
oameni?
aren't you voting if you
Nu
brought
ați
3
ținut
people?
votați.
Why aren't you voting? You want me
Da.
to vote, he asked. Yes, I will
Când?
vote. When?
Ori
I
ați
will vote
votat
now.
deja?
Or did you vote
Ați votat
already?
deja. Dar de unde ați adus doamnele?
Where did you drive the women from?
Doamne, eu nu le-am adus.
I didn't bring the women, they came with me.
Păi cum nu le-ați adus dacă s-o dat jos
What
de
do you mean
mașină?
you
Eu le-am
didn't? They
salutat
got out of your
chinoare.
car, I greeted them.
Am ieșit acum de la secția
I got
de
out
votare
from
de
the
la
voting section in Hincesti, or Hinchesti,
școala
at the
profesională
professional
și
school,
dintr-o mașină au
and from the
plecat
car left
3
3
doamne.
women. So he's talking about 3 women leaving the car where this gentleman had brought them to the polling station.
Le-am salutat.
I greeted them. It's something very suspicious.
Și am impresia
I have the
că
impression that he
faci
works for a
parte
city
dintr-o
hall
primărie,
and
dar
doesn't
nu
want to tell
vreau
us.
să le preîntâmpine pe
Now
doamne.
now he went to warn the women to not come back in the car.
Doamnele s-au urcat
I'll
acolo
wait
și
for the women to
aștept
come
să
out.
iasă la ușă. Dacă nu solicităm
If not, we will call the police
și
to find out who the citizen is.
Doamne, dar de ce fugeți în partea mea?
Asking them why is he running. The car you came with is in the other direction,
Dar cu care? Dar am văzut din
with which I saw you leaving it.
Din ce sat, bă?
From which village are you?
Dar vă, și e mașina primăriei. Dar de
It's
ce
the car of
fugeți?
the city hall. Why are you running?
Cine v-a adus?
Why are you running?
Cine v-a
Who
adus?
brought you
V-ați
here?
venit
Who
cu
brought
mașina,
you?
dar m-ați salutat.
You were in the car. You literally greeted me. Did they force you to vote? Did someone force you?
Dar de ce nu vă dus?
Obviously, coercion of voting is a great hallmark of successful democracy, if this is the case.
Omul și-ala a intrat în... Omul și-ala cine care v-a adus?
Who was the man who brought you? Apparently, we didn't
N-ați
talk with
vorbit.
him.
Ia uitați-vă cum fug oamenii. Asta înseamnă
So again,
transport ilegal de oameni.
this is illegal transport of people. You came with that car. Who brought you?
Am văzut și-a intrat omul și-ala așa ca și a treia
Man,
fată
that's a
care-
third girl crossing the
care
road
fuge
there.
și nu vrea să
Runs,
oprească.
doesn't want to stop.
Ia uitați-vă. Numai nu știu din și primărie. Găsit.
Now, odds are, if I just put my detective hat on a bit quick, I'm going to quickly look up something, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm willing to bet that, let me see who this person, so Nicuso Dan, if that's how you say it, I'm not sure how to say his name, Mayor of Bucharest in Romania. He's unaffiliated. Okay, that's interesting. Now, initially, I was going to think that this was going to be a sure win for this being a liberal candidate, because that's typically what these things occur in favor of. So you couldn't have, for example, in France, Marine Le Pen winning the election despite widespread support, because that would have obviously brought about actual change in favor of French people. So then you had to enact the whole democracy thing of making a coalition with outright communists, fascists in France to keep her out, and that was obviously widely supported by the liberal intelligentsia. You have Georgescu, I've forgotten his first name, who's running to be the next, I believe, prime minister or president of Romania. Obviously, they tried to arrest him and imprison him, and Romanians turned out in their hundreds of thousands. Romanians turned out in their hundreds of thousands to oppose what was going on. I'll see if I can find. I'll see if I can find the footage of that now for you, ladies and gentlemen, because people were turning out in to protest the arrest of the candidate which had received the most votes, Calin Georgescu, or Calin Georgescu, however you say it. And people were turning out, as I said, in the thousands, so that it says here, the sign literally says, as you'll see now, ladies and gentlemen, keep calm and defend democracy. So this is what's going on in Romania at the moment. So this is what they want, but obviously it is actually the liberal side of the aisle at the moment that is so pro-war all across the world. So pro-war and also pro-overturning their own countries to random, third world migrants and all the rest of it, right? To a bunch of Africans and Middle Easterners. This video is buffering here, I'm not sure why, but the population of these countries, as you can see here, people are a lot of Orthodox Christians and stuff like that, even in these areas in like Eastern Europe and stuff like that. So again, here's another example. people marching on the streets of Romania. Again, I'm not sure what they're chanting, but it tells you a lot. They're brandishing their own flags, where now you try to brandish flags on the streets of Britain that are British flags, and they get called like hate symbols and stuff like that. These people that care about their country, they care about their lives, obviously want the best for their people. I'm not sure why the videos keep buffering, but you can see here, this is what happened when the presidential candidate was arrested, I believe. So it says here, Romanians are flooding in Bucharest's streets in massive protests against the stolen election. The AUR party collecting signatures for Călin Georgescu. The movement is turning into a direct challenge to the political establishment. The annulment, which was meant to silence the people, but today the streets are louder than ever. And this was February 22nd. This was, again, not even 3 months ago that this was happening. So again, people exercising their democratic right. They want to be free. Obviously, people in these regions of the world know what it's like to not be free. A lot of them, would have been under the Eastern Bloc and communism. You only got to go back a few decades. But it shows you how much, again, the illusion of democracy, almost, because nothing is happening that the liberal elite doesn't want at the moment. But it's the prospect of it happening that really scares them. It's the prospect of a Marine Le Pen. It's the prospect of a Călin Georgescu. It's the prospect of a Donald Trump that really, really scares them. That really, really scares them, because that will be very, very big in terms of challenge to them. Speaking of Donald Trump and his appointed border czar, Tom Homan, a lot of people are throwing shade at this at the moment and casting, trying to play the moral game with regards to mass deportations, particularly of illegal migrants in America, which is frankly just something which needs to be done to enforce the law, okay? Nobody has the right to just go into somebody's home and settle and do whatever the hell they want in there, okay? Nobody has that right. Nobody has that right to come into this house and do that. Nobody has the right to come into this country and do that, just as we don't have the right to go and do it anywhere else, okay? So this is what Tom Homan, however, when it's coming across, when the liberals are trying to play this heart game of like, oh, look what's happening to the children and all this stuff. You hate the children. You're going to condemn this to that. Well, this is Tom Homan saying that 2 days ago, this was published yesterday. This was put up on X yesterday. 2 days ago at the time, so that would have been May 15th. They found a 14-year-old girl living with 2 adult males who trafficked her. Now he says, we are taking care of her. Despite what the media says, we are not heartless. We care about these kids. I am a father. I think this is important to bear in mind, is that there are things that need to be done that not a lot of people are fans of, that, people try to spin them as evil. People behind these things not always evil. People behind these things are doing things to protect their country, protect their nation, and are doing it with the safeguarding of these children in mind. That's something our establishment can't say of what was happening when, tens, hundreds of thousands or millions of young girls were being systematically trafficked, drugged, raped, tortured by Pakistani grooming gangs, right? Something our establishment can't say, that they had the best interests of the children at heart, that they were fathers, that they cared about these kids, okay? That they cared about this young girl being found with 2 adult males. Tom Homan seems to care. Let's play this video now. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There we are.
Lots. Out now. We're showing up at parking lots, vacant homes. But we're not going to give up to every one of these kids are found.
Those you away, by the way, it's been alleged that about a minimum of 325,000 children have been trafficked across America, even with the involvement of intelligence agencies like the CIA and stuff like that, right? So when he's referencing, we're not going to give up until every one of these children are found, he's likely referring to that 325,000, which is the commonly accepted estimate at the moment, of trafficked children across America by, cartels and intelligence agencies.
So we just found one 2 days ago, an example, 14-year-old little girl living with 2 adult males who trafficked her, and we found her she's pregnant.
Of course. There we go. There's a detail that was missed out. So again, tells you a lot about the inclinations of these people, not just trafficking them from point A to point B, but having their disgusting way with these children along the way. You know, these people, the truly, truly evil people, or at the very least being overtaken by true evils.
Being forced into prostitution. 14 years old. So we're taking care of her, both physically and mentally. Despite what the media says, we're not heartless. We care about these kids. I'm a father.
It's the liberal side of the aisle. I don't care what you say with regards to Conservatives and Labour in this party. They're both on the liberal side of the aisle. That's quite clear. They're both on the liberal, globalist, one world government side of the aisle that would have been on the same side demonizing people that, for example, would have talked about Pakistani grooming gangs, talked about the abuse that was going on with young children, would have called them racist, would have called them Islamophobic, would have called them all these things, not spoken up for the victims. It's been the people on the opposite side of the aisle to Tom Homan and us that have been the ones trying to obfuscate, the ones that have been threatening victims of this stuff, right? Being threatening victims of human trafficking, threatening victims of all these things, because suicidal empathy, I guess, for these disgusting paedophilic Satan-worshipping criminals. Yeah, no thanks, not for me.
And the reason I'm so emotional and so hard, headstrong on this issue, because I've dealt with dying children throughout my career. I've held dying children. I've held dead children. I talked to little girls as young as 9 that were raped multiple times by the criminal cartels. I'll never forget it. When you get on your knees to talk to a 9-year-old little girl, everything innocent and pure is ripped from her, and she don't believe in humanity anymore because you had a bunch of animals crawling on her and taking everything pure from her. You'll never forget it. And that shit's happening every day through this trafficking, and we're going to put an end to it. Everything we can do.
There we are. So it is the liberal system, the liberal elite system, does not want an end to this system. They do not want it. They're benefiting from it. They're benefiting from it, if anything. They're benefiting from the child trafficking rings, you know. Think of a lot about who Epstein's clients were, who we've been covering at the moment. Truly, truly awful stuff. Truly, truly awful stuff. But thank God for people like Tom Homan who are showing that they're going to be headstrong on this. They don't care what people think of them. And this was an amazing thing, which harkens back to something that Rupert Lowe said recently that really encapsulates the attitude that a lot of us simply need to have nowadays. Because what will happen is there was a truly mind-boggling interaction that occurred recently between Emily Maitlis and Rupert Lowe, which is truly... I don't get it. Emily Maitlis coming out as a Pakistani rape gang apologist, basically, you know, trying to accuse Rupert of politicizing the victims of child sexual exploitation at the hands of these gangs, calling him racist, calling him all of that because he's putting so much focus on it, saying that there's, you know, the rape gangs predominantly are white and all of these things that have resulted in victims not coming forward, that have resulted in how many victims that have been attacked. Nick Dixon, so... Before I get onto that, Rupert made a post, and I'll show you the video now as well, ladies and gentlemen. This is the video in question. Emily Maitlis can call me a racist for highlighting the Pakistani rape gangs, right? Let me be clear, I do not care. That vile attitude enabled the decades-long mass rape of working-class white girls by Pakistani men. Justice must be delivered, right? So let me play you this interaction now.
Why are you doing this? Why are you just trying to talk about Pakistani grooming gangs when there are 4 times, 8 times and 10 times as many white grooming gang suspects?
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming when it hits any community and any age. We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
Well, when there's a commonality between people being foreign and then a religious ideology that permits this and makes it okay, it does warrant, you know, specific attention for that. It does warrant specific issue for that. And people who talk about it, they're not racist. The people that are concerned with child welfare. A lot of people Emily's trying to call racist and stuff like that, they'll happily, myself included, we are happy to see any child predator put behind bars for the rest of their life. Many of us will say that that's not enough. Okay. The difference being, however, is that what you find is that when perpetrators are light-skinned British people, for example. There's no accusations of Islamophobia or racism or anything like that. There's no trying to cover it up, okay? There's no going to community leaders within that community asking them how they'd want to be policed. There's none of this stuff. They're thrown in prison. The books are thrown at them, and their faces are put all over the media, in many instances showing where they come from, like streets that they hail from and stuff like that. Okay, fine. They're done away with. We'd like to see that, because at the end of the day, people want to make sure their children are safe. I want to make sure my young relatives are safe, right? The difference is that when it is a person of foreign descent, when it is a person of a religion which you can speak no ill about, when it are these things, it's obfuscated. Victims are arrested and threatened. The police work in cahoots with the perpetrators. The police are often in on it, abusing the girls themselves. It's covered up by government under accusations of racism and Islamophobia and all of these other things. Far-right thuggery. And then the perpetrators very rarely see jail, or they are released early from their sentences, so people can be put in prison for thought crimes and things that they put on Facebook, commenting on the state of the country that they're in, and then they are free to walk back around the same communities with the same girls that they raped. Many have gotten pregnant by these rapists. But if you say any of that, apparently you're racist. This is Emily Maitlis here encapsulates every single thing wrong with the mainstream media
you that you
or
are
mainstream
focusing
media
on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
I am concentrating on it because it's a blot on our national history.
And Rupert is just simply
100%
right. He's 100% right. And yes, all grooming is a blot on our national history. The fact of the matter is that when we brought these people in en masse, with their ideology that actively says that this stuff is okay, that you can do whatever you want to the daughters of the infidels and all this stuff, right? What do we find? Nick Dixon quoted this and said, reformers still terrified of being called names by people who hate them. Rupert is not. This is a key difference. And this is Rupert's response to that, which many of us just simply need to, again, understand that it's okay to say this. I don't care what these people think of me. I don't care what these people think of me, because these people aren't your friends. Emily Maitlis, not your friend. Emily Maitlis is a friend and pawn of the establishment. People who are doing the same things that are driving you more and more into serfdom every single day. So why do you care what they think of you? Why do you care what they think? The reason why so many people are rallying behind Rupert at the moment is because he's forcing the issue. He's forcing the issue, and he's showing that he's not scared to force the issue of the conversation about how, why, and what we do about it. Now, that was in reference to obviously talking about Tom Homan. Don't care about what your enemies think of you. Pray for them. Pray for them. Don't put too much weight on what they think of you and what they say about you. Now, I want to leave you with a little bit of a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen. This was really, really nice. This was a really, really nice video that popped up on my X feed. A rarity nowadays, that pops up on my X feed. But I'm just going to let the video play. And I just wanted to share this. It's a nice feel-good moment to cut off today. Normally we'd find something to quote unquote cancel, people over if I'm trying to ape Matt Walsh. But obviously he's responded to the people calling him out on X recently. And I'm still thinking about the things that he said. I understand his point. I absolutely understand the point that he's making. People have had a lot of mixed reactions to it and stuff like that. But yeah, I still think Matt is a very good voice in the culture at the moment, for sure. Again, somebody who's just a strong Christian, very strong patriot, and cares about his family. He cares about his family a lot, and you can't fault him for putting those things first. And that comes across in everything that he does. So anyway, we'll maybe have a revisit of that and look at that, because I know I mentioned it 1 or 2 episodes ago, the whole thing that was going on with the hidden swastika and stuff like that. But anyway, we're now going to look at this now. And this is a nice little feel-good video to finish off. This is a family where they had a daughter that was spending first Christmas away. And let's just say the daughter had a really, really nice surprise for them. This was really, really nice.
That you pour upon us, Lord. Continue to protect our family, our loved ones, and continue to the nourishment in our body, Lord. Blessing to everyone.
So for those of you, I'll let the video play, because again, it has about a minute before it gets to the point. It says here, this was supposed to be our first Christmas without my sister since she moved. She flew in last minute to surprise my parents. So the mother and father are praying to the Lord, praying to Jesus at the head of the table, and basically saying, keep her safe, please keep her safe, Lord, please keep this family safe, not realizing that she's come in and sat at the table. Now very soon they're going to look up, and I just want you to hear and see their reaction. Protect this family, he says.
We praise you.
Daughter just at the table, smiling, just waiting for the reaction.
Amen.
And they look up, and the mother's just noticed. I just look at how happy it makes them. I'll just rewind it. Just look at this. This is like the true love of family, and what we lose when you know, we don't put family. What these people are doing here, they're asking the good Lord to, you know, look over and watch their family because of how much they love their family and how much they love the Lord, right? And obviously very worried about her, very, very worried about her, as any parent's going to be. And just imagine if you were a parent and you had this surprise, you know, at Christmas. Truly a Christmas miracle, a Christmas gift in many ways.
We praise you and glorify you. In Jesus' mighty name.
Amen.
Amen.
It's the father that gets me, just how happy he is, just he can't believe it.
Oh my God.
Always keep your family close, folks. Always keep your family close, because obviously there's going to come that day when obviously they're not going to be here anymore. There's going to come a day where you're not going to be here anymore. Could be today. Could be tomorrow. Really keep that at the forefront of your mind. And that'll do it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching, listening, as always. Hope you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Diolch and vowed, as always. And I will catch up with you very, very soon. Godspeed.